Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. Special pleasure now to introduce back to the show Pierre Jovanovic. Pierre, welcome back to the Keiser Report.
Bonjour, Max. Merci.
All right, Pierre, a minister's home was attacked in the past week here in France. Which minister and what was the motive? I smell the acrid smell of revolution.
So the name of the minister was Mr. Le Foll, which means Mr. Crazy. So it's quite interesting. And he's the Minister of Agriculture. And this reminds us something here in France. It's it's the smell not of napalm but of revolution.
Right.
Morning.
It's fantastic revolution.
So they started at 3 o'clock in the morning, I think, if I remember well. That was like a couple of days ago. And because there's almost one peasant who's, I don't know if it's the right term, I'm sorry, who is committing suicide every day. And this is extremely difficult right now in France.
So repeat that. One peasant per day is committing suicide.
Yes.
In what, the French, where? In France?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. It's dramatic. And the National French Railways made a statement that the number of suicides jumped 30%. The people who put their body on the tracks.
Right, they jump on. Right.
So since this jumped in 1 year.
Of course, in the United States, we don't call them peasants; we call them consumers. Now, of course, we usually do the show in London, Pierre, and we notice that there's a high concentration of young French people in London. There's supposedly something like 500,000 actually in London. Is this a healthy sign of the economy, or is that a bad thing?
I think it's a bad thing. It's a good thing for another way, but it's a bad thing because the smart people are leaving France, and people who are productive are leaving the country, and people who are not very productive are getting in. So it's a real problem.
There's a brain drain.
I mean, it's a brain drain also in England. It's also the same thing in Germany or Spain or Italy. You need to see that.
Right, and. There was a big story recently. The Titan Tire Company, the boss, Maurice Taylor, he recently asked, "Do you think we're stupid?" when asked by the French government to hire French workers. He claimed the French spend 3 hours talking and just 3 hours working. Your thoughts? This was a big story.
Yes, this was a big story because it was it was a kind of provocation. Let me remind you something very important from Goldman Sachs, your friends, your best friends at Goldman Sachs. A Goldman Sachs banker said I think it was the Huffington Post, that all the French salaries need to be taken down of 30%. So, which is absolutely crazy. I mean, think about that. How a Goldman Sachs banker dare, to come up, and say, all the salary of all the French people or Italian or English people need to be lowered by 30%. This is absolutely crazy. Why? Because they are putting in France the same plan as in Greece.
Right.
You have seen it. So in Greece, all the salaries have been taken down of 30%. And this is extremely difficult. So, on top of that, we had Mr. Taylor telling to a French minister and the French government and French people, that they're just a bunch of lazy people, which is totally false, utterly false, because even it was in the Business Insider a huge piece saying that the French people are the most productive in the whole world. So you can find it.
Right, on an hour by hour basis, productivity in France is high. But you mentioned Goldman Sachs, you mentioned Greece. We know that before Greece collapsed, Goldman Sachs was in Greece.
Yes.
They cooked the books. They got Greece to join the euro under false pretenses.
Exactly.
They did a deal with Lloyd Blankfein, and the head of Greece, Papandreou, got together, and John Paulson, a hedge fund manager, talked about destroying the economy and selling off the parts, the bits and pieces, as they're doing now.
Yes.
So this is a leveraged buyout of a country. It was a financial takedown of a country because Greece was only a $300 billion economy. They attacked it with financial weapons, essentially, credit default swaps, naked short selling. And now they're selling off bits and pieces, and they're like a leveraged buyout, like if Carl Icahn ran Greece.
Same thing, same plan.
Okay, now it's moving to France.
Yes.
Okay, the French people I get the sense that are they aware of what's really going on and they are ready to revolt, or are they kind of sleepwalking into losing their sovereignty as Greece has lost its sovereignty?
There's a part of sleepwalking, exactly. Same thing as Greece, because of the mainstream media didn't explain, to people what's happening. They're lying. Nobody's talking about Goldman Sachs. But things are deteriorating because there is no day or no week that big companies, are laying off like 100 or even 1,000 of people. It's, it's non-stop since May of 2012. So French people are aware that something is definitely wrong and that politicians are lying. And this is why they attacked this politician. He is left-wing. Think about that. This is something new. They're never attacked like left-wing socialist. That's something new here.
Right.
It's like the revolution stuff coming, starting again, brewing.
Well, when the big financial crisis hit in the 2008 period, within 18 months or so, France, they reacted. They lowered tax on restaurants, etc., which seemed to give people a sense that they were muddling through, that they were able to get. But now what you're describing is that there's another big down leg, that there's a truly more impactful down leg to this crisis, and it's starting to really cut into people, and there's a lot of layoffs, right? So this is real. Is this the real thing? I mean, French people, but you say the mainstream media doesn't really communicate what's going on.
Televisions.
Yeah. Right. So now you've got probably the most popular blog in France, I would say, in the economic space. And your books, by the way, your new book on Blythe Masters, The Devil of Wall Street, I think that's the subtitle, or The Wicked Witch Who Destroyed the World with Credit Default Swaps. I'm quoted in the book, by the way, so it's coming out in English, so you have to look for this. But and you have a radio show here as well.
Yes.
So how is that message? Is the message going to get through, or are we just going to wake up one day and they're storming the barricades and the revolution is on? I mean, you really think that there's going to be a coup, a revolution for real?
I think that there's we can start it. The socialist government is doing crazy things. Think about that. They're going to start to put taxes, on the government subsidies. I mean, given to families who have like 3 or 4 children. I mean, this is weird. I mean, if they wanted to create a revolution, that would be the best idea to put forward. They're desperate, to taking money from people. They don't know how to. So, and even the most weirdest thing is that they're socialist, because this kind of politics are expected, from right-wing stuff, So people are totally lost now. They're even worse than the worst of the worst right wing.
Right.
That's the point.
Okay. Well, of course, in the past, countries would have the option of devaluing their currency. But, of course, France is part of the euro. So, like Greece, they don't have that option to devalue the currency. Is this setting up in some antagonism with Germany? Because talk a little bit about that.
The antagonism with Germany was already seen almost 1 year ago when the French Socialist Party started to attack Angela Merkel politics and economics, and now it just widens. So this means basically that Germans are getting richer and the French are getting poorer, to put it simply. And it's very dangerous, as it always was. And especially, we are in Italy. They have a specific gauge, to see, how the economy is widened between the Italian economy and the Germans, because this is the main track, of what's going to happen, and we cannot leave. Nobody can leave Germany, take over the whole economy, and if this is continuing, they will do it. Euro will be a mark. Basically, it's a mark.
Right. It seemed that when the Euro project got started with Mitterrand, that there was this idea that, well, we can reunify the two Germanys, but they'll be under the umbrella of Europe. So they won't. The Teutonic genie won't come out of the bottle. And we're not talking about the Fourth Reich anymore. I mean, they're going to be watered down by the Europe. But now all the other countries except Germany are becoming insolvent. So they haven't the Germany pull a fast one, and they're going to be essentially doing what they tried to do 3 times
Germany
before.
Germany wants his gold back,
Right. We'll talk about this. Germany wants their gold back. They were told by the...
This is funny, Max. I mean, think about Wagner piece, you know, the Rheingold. You know, the gold was stolen. And they were looking for the gold. The history is repeating itself again. It's quite interesting.
Right. Now, Germany supposedly has 3,000 tons of gold, but a lot of it's held overseas. They're trying to repatriate the gold. They've been told, well, you can't have it for 7 years. Is that going over well?
7 years of reflection. You know.
Right. Meanwhile, countries around the world are asking to repatriate their gold. France has a lot of gold.
Yes.
And Italy has a lot of gold.
Yeah, Sarkozy sold 600 tons of gold.
Is that right? I didn't hear about that. Sarkozy sold 600 tons?
Exactly.
When did this happen?
When he was Minister of Budget, that was like, I think like 10 years ago, same period as Tony Blair, if I remember well.
Really?
Yeah, the English PM sold 400 tons.
Gordon Brown.
Brown, I'm sorry. Brown sold 400 tons and Sarkozy sold 600. So that was, but at the same time, as Fekete said...
Professor Fekete.
Exactly. The Americans didn't sold any gram of their gold.
Right. Mm-hmm.
This was made for, you know, to save the dollar, you know, to keep the gold, low, very, very low, so that people will think that everything is, everything is well, and, bees and, are flying around, and this is,
Not to worry. But I've got to ask you about Gérard Depardieu. He's now Russian.
Yes.
Your thoughts?
My thought is that in his name there is God, Dieu, voilà. And Dieu left, a quitté la France. Donc
God has left.
God has left. So it's if we may, take that on this level, it's quite scary.
But the French people are actually depressed about this because they really venerate Depardieu, and he's kind of left France, and this is...
Venerate, we cannot say that we venerate, but this is just the top of the iceberg, which shows that things are really, really wrong everywhere. That very rich people, are able to get out of this very heavy taxation system, and that poor people, are paying even more. So this is something very new.
Pierre, we got to go. Thanks for being on the Keiser Report.
Merci, Max.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report with me, Max Keiser, and Stacey Herbert. I want to thank my guest, Pierre Jovanovic. If you want to send me an email, please do so at keiserreport@rttv.ru. Until next time, Max Keiser saying bye, y'all.